You going to?
Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Mayor, it looks like you've got, oh, there's Tammy right there. So after I let Tammy in, you are live and you are recording. So I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. And we have a couple of guests with us tonight that we'll recognize during public comments. And if as always, if I could ask everyone to mute your microphone until it's time to speak, that would be helpful for background noise. Let's see if I could go ahead and call our meeting to order. And Todd, if we could call on you to give us the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. If we could stand for a moment of silence, and then Todd will give the pledge for us.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Todd. Madam Clerk, I think you have an electronic record that all council members are present.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, good. Then we'll dispense with the formal roll call. Each of you have received a copy of the minutes of our last meeting. If you'd like to take a moment to look those over for any possible corrections or additions. And if there are none, we'll take a motion to approve.
Motion.
Thank you, Tammy.
Second.
Thank you, Willow. And if there are no questions, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Are there any opposed? Okay, hearing none, minutes are approved. Each of you should have also received a copy of our latest check register. If you could indicate you received that register. Thank you. Okay. Under public, let's see, Tom, I think I may hold your public comments and your request for the council until after they've had a chance to hear the resolution that we've been working on. If that's okay.
Thank you.
If that's okay with you, it makes more sense to approve that first and then talk with you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So we have someone else, Tracy, for public comments.
Miss Duggan?
Oh, good, Ms. Duggan.
Dunning.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Miss Dunning.
And I ask you to mute, Ms. Duggan, so you'll have to come off mute so we can hear you.
Sorry, I'm new to this.
So I guess you just want me to talk about my issues?
Yes, ma'am. You're before the city council, and we give all citizens 4 or 5 minutes, and whatever's on your mind.
Okay, sorry, I'm just new to this. So I've had an ongoing problem. I bought a house or townhouse in Georgetown in April of '99. And in 2018, well, for years, I'd always gotten too much water in my backyard. Like after a heavy rainstorm, there'd be water built up, but I never, it was never a terrible issue until 2018. From June 26th of 18 till the end of November, my house got flooded 9 times. And every time there was a really heavy rainstorm with a whole lot of water at one point in time, the water that comes out that drain, instead of it coming out the drain and turning left and going down the rock embankment, when there's a lot of force, it actually goes to the right and it shoots right towards my backyard. So I spoke to Ben Krebs back in 2018, and he was all over it. And he wrote letters to the property owners and let them know they needed to fix the problem. And so it took them until the end of November until they regraded that storm drain, a runoff drain, and until they built the hill between me and it larger. However, those are just like Band-Aid fixes. That doesn't get to the problem. The problem is the water shoots straight out and the water is going to move earth. And so in 2 years' time, since they fixed this, that hill is all washing down into my yard. I've been trying to fix my house because I had to replace the bottom foot of my entire house. And I've been trying to do this for the past 2 years. And I just won a settlement with the apartment complex owners and just got paid like in April, I guess it was. And so I've been doing the repairs. Well, 3 weeks ago, I get a contractor and we come to the house to get an estimate, and I open up the back door and my back door is covered in mud. So yet again, there's been a heavy rainstorm where water got to my back door. So right now I have sandbags at my back door, but there's no way I'm going to be able to sell, which is what I want to do, or rent my house until this problem is fixed. And I can show you a video I've done on my computer. I don't know if there's a way I could share it with everybody, but it's just, I don't know what else to say.
Ma'am, I know that this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You mentioned that this had gone to litigation and it's been settled in litigation.
Well, we settled out of court because of COVID. Everything kept getting pushed off and off and off. And they were fighting me for the longest time. And then they got inspectors to come to my house and they did an inspection. And the very next day I was offered a settlement because the estimates that I had turned in were, no way, shape or form even touched what those two guys turned in. So yeah, we settled quickly after that.
Okay.
Mayor, could I ask her, where is this property located? What area of town?
It's 177 Elkhorn Meadows, which is right behind Dairy Queen and Taco Bell, those townhouses.
Okay.
And when I bought the property in '99, there was nothing on the hill behind me. But like 6 years later, I think it was like 2006, they built apartments up there. And all 3 of those apartments and the entire parking lot comes out one drain right behind my house. And it just shoots right out towards me. It doesn't know to left and go down the storm drain. And it's crazy that even with all the force that it actually turns right and it just goes right over their dirt embankments and into my yard and has filled up my house 9 times back in 2018. And then now it's getting to my yard again. And I've put in a French drain, and I've also installed I've put flashing along the back of my fence to help keep the water on their side of the property, but it's still coming to my property.
Okay.
I did ask for council's benefit. Miss Eddie Hightower has talked with this property owner, and I think Eddie, you visited the site.
Yes, sir. Is it okay if I chime in, Mayor?
Please.
So, yes, sir. So this is an apartment building that sits way up on a hill, a really high, probably a high point, and she's way at the bottom of the hill, so she's much further down, and so all that water kind of runs down through there, and it goes through a piping system, and then ends up out on the street. And so planning and zoning got involved. I got involved, and we did a bunch of repairs, or actually the owner of the apartment building did a whole bunch of repairs on the system because they just acquired it about 2 years ago. And these apartments are probably like 20 years old. So about 2 years ago, they moved in there, and they've fixed a number of things. They've done a bunch of drainage improvements, and it's my understanding that there was some litigation that got settled, and I thought the project was done. So I guess next steps moving forward, maybe we could meet on site and see if we can come up with a solution.
Well, it sounds like if you could meet on site with the property owner, Eddie, and
Okay.
maybe make sure that, let's just get an update on the situation. I'm
Sure.
encouraged. I'm sorry that we're still hearing about problems. I'm encouraged that some repairs were done and some settlement.
May I
was-
speak again?
But yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, they did do fixes and that was nice, but right, they have to change like the process because water, oh, I'm sorry. I guess that's me. Because the drain is open air drain and it's directly above my property, and the water will never know to turn left when it comes out the drain. And water is always gonna move earth, so it doesn't matter how much hill, it doesn't matter how much hill they put between us, it's always gonna be moved in time, and the house will get flooded again and again and again. That was all I was gonna say. Like they did do a lot of fixes, but it's all just been Band-Aid fixes. It hasn't been a root cause solution to the problem. And I appreciate meeting Eddie. That'd be awesome. If we can get out there, because I just need.
Okay. How about if we meet out there, later on this week? We can
That'd
get
be
together
cool.
this week and see if
That'd
we
be
can
awesome.
figure out, anything else that you think needs to be done out there.
That'd be awesome.
Eddie, do you have this lady's contact information?
I have it.
Yes, sir, I do. Yes, sir, I do. Mhm.
Okay, then if you all would please talk, and the council look forward to hearing what you learned.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Let's see, that was, Tracy, was that our only public comment other than Tom's request?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Well, Tom loves these things, so we'll let him sit through it some. Oh, goodness. Mayor's comments. Obviously, there are some things I'd like to address with the council. This has been a very difficult weekend for our community and a very difficult weekend for the Georgetown Police Department. We've had 2 officer-involved shootings, and I don't know that in one weekend that's ever occurred in our history. So it's a very significant thing. One officer-involved shooting is a very serious incident, and we've had 2. I want to say that there's not a lot that I can say, but I just a couple of things I want to say. I think it was the professionalism and the training of the Georgetown Police Department that stopped a very dangerous threat without injury to others. And I'll say that much. And very, very proud of the department's training and performance. These incidents, having said that, these incidents will be investigated by the Kentucky State Police. That was a decision that Chief Bossy immediately made, and I concurred with. So that is underway. I can tell you tonight that we have 8 police officers off on administrative leave from these incidents. And that is short-term administrative leave. While the state police investigation will likely take a month or longer, our administrative leave is designed to give our officers a few days from the trauma that an officer involved shooting involves for our officers. Then when they come back, they give their interview to the Kentucky State Police. And after they've been interviewed, they'll be allowed to return to duty. So our manpower management issue that I first thought could be protracted will only last a couple of days. And we worked with department management today, Assistant Chief Allgood and Captain Nash, they've gone through the roster. We're fine on Tuesdays because that's our double where our shifts overlap for roll call. They'll massage Wednesday to make it work, and then they should be back to normal manpower operations with our current head count by Thursday. So from a manpower management point of view, we're going to be okay with that. I also want to let you know that there have been multiple avenues of support offered to our officers from the department's chaplain to other assistants to an opportunity to sit down with a team of officers that have been through officer involved shootings. And so we're doing our best to take steps to give our officers what they need at this particular time. And I guess there's not a whole lot else I can say about that other than I-75 has a tremendous influence on this community, and much of it is good. Also want to point out that we didn't need the additional reinforcement for the steps that the council has already taken to support law enforcement, but this provided us one. And it leads me to thank and recognize the council again for the steps that you've already taken to improve our first responder situation. And with the coming budget that you're getting ready to receive, to be able to add more headcount and increase those salaries is today it looks like I hope it looks like a very smart move and one that you know is on the right path. It's also a good time to point out that in the very ambitious plan that we put forward with the 5-year growth plan that involved hiring the 15 officers and the 15 firefighters and the other things that are necessary in our budget going forward, we projected revenue needs at the very end of that exercise, at the end of a 5-year period of growth. We projected revenue needs in the range of an $8 million increase. And that almost seems to be an impossibly large amount, and it's a daunting task. But I wanted to use this opportunity to remind the council that through the steps you took late last fall with the 911 fee, once it's fully implemented, and with the steps you took to approve the insurance premium tax, council has already approved and put in place $3.7 million of that $8 million ultimate goal. You've already taken steps to get this entire enterprise with a 5-year projection half the way there. So it can be done in bite-sized increments, and it just seemed like a good time to congratulate you and point out the fact that you've made a lot of progress on what was a large goal and still remains a large goal. That leads me just to a quick comment or two about where we are in the budget process. Stacy's been doing a lot of work. David and Connie have been asked to participate in some pretty lengthy meetings. Andrew and Stacy have, at this point, we've received all of the requests from the department heads and have met with those department heads to understand what those requests are. And they've given us a written narrative of their request. Ultimately, you'll see all that in your budget packet. We expected budget requests to be up this year, and they are. Last year, as we entered into a pandemic, we just told everybody, don't ask for anything. And by the way, non-salary expenses need to be cut. We made every department cut non-salary expenses in last year's budget, just in our reaction to the COVID, the uncertainty of COVID. So this year, I returned to my normal narrative with the department heads, which is advocate on behalf of your department. Tell me and the council what you think your department needs. So we understand your perception of the department. So I turned them loose to go ahead and advocate this year, and they're good at what they do. They advocated. And they restored some things that we stripped out of earlier budgets. And we've already calculated in some salary raises that we told you we would do with the increased revenue. But counting all that together, we know that right now we've had departmental requests for more than $5 million than last year's level. So it worked. People advocated for their departments. And we're now in the process of bringing the department heads back in to begin to whittle on those lists some about what's realistic and what just isn't right now. We're working on the revenue estimates so we can put those together. Finance committee will meet again. Is it next Friday, Connie? Or this Friday?
Next Friday.
Next Friday? Okay. And we think we'll have a much more substantial cut at this thing to present to them. So we're on track and we think making good progress with it. Dave and Connie, anything you all like to add about that?
No, not really. You pretty much hit it on the head there, Mayor. We meet on the 23rd and we're going to delve into it again. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really kind of excited. I think it's more promising this year for sure.
Good. Other mayor's comments. We've been really excited about knowing that 460 was going to be paved this summer. And it turns out the project is getting ready to begin. It will still end up by the end of June. But what you're going to see right away, we've learned, are the project signs going up downtown. So if you get calls from merchants or citizens, step one will be to put up all the construction signs. Then they're going to begin work on the electric work on the loops for the traffic lights. So you'll begin to see that kind of construction. Once that's done, then they'll move back in with the curb work. And then finally, they'll do the big milling curb to curb and paving curb to curb. What we've met with the contractor, which is Hamilton Hinkle, and of course, we've got Laurie Saunders, who is taking care of our downtown merchant program stirred into this. And we think we're going to be pretty well coordinated with communication so that we can let folks know phase by phase how this is going to come to them downtown, or all the way through Georgetown. It's going to go from Rocky Creek all the way to Paynes Depot. They will do they'll do these early phases. When they finally get to the milling and paving, which is the dirty, loud part, and it's just a necessity for repaving projects, those will be done overnight. They can mill overnight one night and then pave overnight the next night in sections as they move down Main Street. We will be able to let folks know with our Facebook page and website what's coming up in the coming week. And Lori can help the merchants know so we can navigate this as best as we can. It'll be really pretty when it's done, but it's going to be a little bit of a hassle for about 3 weeks. We will leave out, there's almost a block that we will leave out of West Main Street where our streetscape program is going to occur. So we want to complete that project so that when we pave that block, we don't have to carve it up again. So you'll see the project interrupted with one section so that we can come back and do that. Couldn't be more excited that this is getting ready to happen for us. If you're out and about on North 25, drive into UCO I mentioned this before, the paving, the parking lot project is underway. The big earthen mounds have been removed. We've done fix the drainage and all the gravel is in place. You can really begin to see what that new parking lot is going to look like. And I think you'll be really pleased. And lastly, under Mayor's comments, to let you know that last year was actually the 30th anniversary of our sister city relationship with Tahara Chi. We started the relationship with Tahara Cho, Tahara Town, and now it is with Tahara Chi, Tahara City. It's changed that designation. Obviously, there was no way to travel and celebrate that sister city relationship last year. We pushed all the plans off to this year, thinking it would be more conducive. It's still too uncertain. It's not the time. I understand the Tokyo Olympics are going to start, but we're not going to have international spectators. So what we've been discussing with Tahara is a form of a virtual 30th anniversary. We're preparing a video. They're going to prepare a video. We're doing this as best we can under these odd circumstances. But we didn't go last year. We're not going to go this year. And we'll do a virtual celebration. Would you all know that's what we're thinking about?
Mayor, it looks really nice. I was out to, Eddie said something about going out to the garden. So I drove out there while I was still in the midst of things, but it didn't look like that hill was ever even there. It looks really nice.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, and Karen, our folks did that.
It looks great. They did a good job.
Hamilton and Hinkle is going to do the paving, but we took their bid and looked at what the cost was going to be to remove those mounds, do the leveling, and lay the gravel. And we had skilled operators that did that on our time. We didn't pay the contractor for that. So
Well, it looks great. It looks like they knew exactly what they were doing. And it's like, if you didn't know it had been there, you can't tell now that it was ever there. Yeah.
Appreciate you mentioning that.
Sure.
Okay, if there are no more questions, item 7 on your agenda is a resolution accepting grant funding for the airport. This is a piece of CARES funding, I think just in the $30,000 range. Talked with Martin Thomas today, and they intend to finish up the tail end of a lighting project that they've had underway with this funding. So we would need a motion for approval.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion's been made.
Second.
And second. Thank you, Karen. If there are no questions about that resolution, all in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you. That carries. And we've got a short list of, under cemetery, item 8 on the agenda, a municipal order of some surplus items for the cemetery. Is there a motion for approval of that?
Motion.
Thank you, Tammy.
Second.
Thank you, Willow. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Okay, we're going to let Tom out of Zoom jail now. Item 9 under city attorney, the first thing we have is the addendum to the special event permit application that we mentioned to you at the last meeting, that we were kind of looking at what some other cities have done. And we've shared that back and forth with Tom, has been nice enough to be a guinea pig and be the first applicant to come through under it. We've also gotten input from Dr. Crystal Miller and WEDCO and did that. I also want you all to know that upon its first reading, it looks and reads harsh, potentially harsh. And we've talked through it with Laurie Saunders about any concerns that might have existed about the Festival of the Horse and the way this would impact it. And after we've had those conversations, I think folks feel a little more at ease about what's being presented. And I'll let Tom address that in just a minute. But Devin, is there anything else that you need to add about this particular MO?
No, I think you covered it very well. This is just an opportunity for us to provide a process for applicants. And I can say that Dr. Miller is certainly excited to work with applicants, and so is the city. We want events to safely happen. So that's kind of what I assured Lori. And I think it was a really positive conversation with her, and just wanted to ease her concerns, because we do want the Festival of the Horse to happen, but we have to be responsible and provide those safeguards and provide the information to the applicants and the vendors so that we can all safely meet and have these events in downtown and beyond. So I think you covered it, Mayor, and be glad to answer any questions. Also, thank you to Mr. Combs for contacting me. My first draft didn't indicate a deadline for submitting the plan. I think we ended up going, he was willing to do 60 days, but we landed on 30 days, which I think is a little less burdensome to applicants. So thank you, sir, for helping out with that.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I was reading over that, and I know I definitely want to see things happen downtown and do it safe-wise as well. But I'm wondering if, since the 4th of July parade is like 90 days away, and just to kind of see how this goes, is there any way that we can just do this through the end of July and just see how it goes this time and see where we're at in 90 days? I mean, see how the amount of COVID people getting it, and see how those ratios go, and just kind of just tackle it a little bit at a time. Is that too much of a compromise to ask that we could do that?
Are you asking that the policy be in place till the end of July, Connie?
Yes, Devin.
Okay, so the way the municipal order is written, it will automatically be lifted upon the lifting of the state of emergency, but council action prior to that can either amend it or repeal it in whole. So if at the end of July, council wants to make some changes to it, we can absolutely do that.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, Devin.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that was an important provision, Connie, that it does expire as soon as we lift, as soon as the executive lifts the state of emergency. Of course, the judge and I are not going to do that yet, because the state of emergency is what makes us eligible for all these CARES funds or the recovery funds. So
Okay, got it. Thank you.
we have a real practical reason for doing that right now. But we sure can. The council can revisit this at the time of their choosing, and after the 4th of July experience. And it's important for me to let you all know that what this is not intending to do. It's sometimes more important to know what it's not intended to do than it is what it is. It's not intended to make event organizers the mass police. We don't do that. Our police officers don't do that. We don't expect we don't expect the people putting on an event to be the mass police. This does have expectations that the event coordinator or person putting it on at least have the signage available and the mask available. We do not intend for this to be an obstacle to someone being willing to have an event.
Thank you, Mayor.
Greg,
Can I ask a question, please?
yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Combs, did you find this to be overly burdensome to you, or did you find that this is something that you can work with?
We currently are in the process of reviewing the mitigation plan, and we'll try to have that submitted next week. But as it's laid out to us, I think we can satisfy the requirements. The biggest obstacle I see, honestly, will be not coordinating the parade and lining up the participants. It'll be the roundabout when you come down Main Street and people and families are lined up and down, if they are this year, up and down Main Street, and trying to keep that, satisfy the CDC requirements for that. But we will do our best, and of course signage will be available everywhere, we hope.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. If you all have read, we put these in this order: approval of the addendum first, and then the request for the permit for the 4th of July parade. So is there, if we've discussed the addendum sufficiently and you've read through that, is there a motion for approval of that municipal order?
Mayor, I have a question real quick, if I may.
Sure.
I certainly want events to occur downtown and anywhere we have, but this will be for the vendors, any staff that are part of this that applies to them. I guess my short question is, does this have any teeth? I mean, we're going to have hundreds of people downtown without masks. I mean, what good does it really do if we've got a lot of people without masks and, you only got your vendors with masks?
Greg, that's a really good question. Devin can help with the legal points of that, but it's us in my view, it's us as a public agency. If we approve an event on our streets, that we ask the organizers to at least take these minimal steps. It's almost an effort of good faith on our part to try not to spread COVID. I agree with you. Our fear with parades has been, that's where the crowd is downtown. That's the joy of kind of crowding up and getting next to the street, speaking between people. And we weren't going to draft regulations that made Tom's group and civic groups responsible for policing that. Is it trying to hold back the maybe it is some of that.
Mayor,
Devin, is that
I
please
interject
help.
there. Great question, Greg. You raised a great point. And I kind of view it in this light, and I view a number of things in this light. We as a city cannot promise a result, but we can promise a process. And so all we're asking is that applicants sign on to that process, provide the resources to the vendors and the people attending the event. And when it comes to compliance, like Mayor said, we're not going to send GPD down there to arrest or ask people to leave events. But what we can do is create an infrastructure for having safe events and ask that those running the event do their very best to ensure a safe event.
Yeah, that's not a very complete answer, Greg, but it's about all I've got. Thank you.
I mean, again, I understand, we have a rough responsibility to the community and everything, but I guess I'm saying is, why can't we just ask the vendors to put up signs, and why do we have to have an amendment relaying that when I think this can be done just through a simple request that they do this? Because you said yourself that, the police are not going to be the mask police. They're not going to go around and make sure everybody's wearing a mask. So I'm just not quite sure as to why, we're giving the, WEDCO, the health department, this authority. So.
Well, I think that the response to that is that we're asking the event planners to provide the information and abide by those requirements. And the penalty essentially is that if an event planner is unwilling or doesn't follow their mitigation plan, that jeopardizes their ability to hold events in the future, subject to appeals rights, of course. But I think you're right. We're not going to be able to prevent every single violation of CDC guidelines, and that's not the expectation at all. That the expectation is only that the event planners do their very best. Public doesn't comply, that doesn't go back on the event planner. When the event planner doesn't provide that infrastructure, that's when it kind of penalizes them. And I really don't think we're going to have any issue with that as far as the event planners go. I think people are accustomed to providing that information to the public, and you're absolutely right. We can't expect full compliance from the public, but we can do our very best.
Yeah, and I think we've from the beginning of this COVID crisis, we've had a pretty good three-legged stool partnership between city government, county government, and WEDCO Health Agency. And we've tried to operate in concert with one another. It has never been about WEDCO setting policy for us. And it won't be, but we have operated collaboratively.
Mayor, you're cutting out a little bit. I couldn't hear you very well. I'm sorry.
Let me speak up. Is that any better?
That's better. Thank you.
All right. And actually, this idea didn't come to us from WEDCO. This idea came to us from Henderson, Kentucky. But anyway, point well taken. Do we have a motion and a second? No, we did. We had conversation first. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move that we approve it.
Thanks, Tammy.
Second, Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. Motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions or comments about what it's intended to do and what its effect might be on an organizer like Mr. Combs?
I don't really have any questions, just a statement. I know that in order to move forward and to have these events, we're going to have something in place, and I get that. But I do like the fact that we can watch this, because it is our first big thing that we're having since everything's happened, and we are trying to open up and be smart about it. So I think that we can all take a chance on watching it, seeing how it's done, go down there ourselves, view it, and if it's not going to work, we have that option to bring it back and say, hey, we need to change some things. That's a good option for us. So,
thank you.
If I may say also, Mr. Combs, my comments in no way have are no reflection on the parade or anything like that. I'm just questioning the need for the amendment. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mayor, I'll make a quick comment, and maybe I have a question. I guess I'll start with what may be the question. It talks about on number 2, it says, describe how the event organizers have created layouts to space people at least 6 feet apart. To me, realistically, that seems like a very challenging thing to do during the Festival of Horse or a 4th of July parade, or knowing the history of those events. Is that realistic to put in there? And is 6 feet still the magic number? Has that number not been changed here recently? And I apologize, Mayor, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. If anybody can answer that question, I don't expect you to be an authority on all this. None of us are. New territory.
Yeah, and I'm leaning a lot on this Henderson ordinance and what their experience has been. Devin, has that changed guidance down to 3 feet? I think is current. Is the 3 feet reflects current CDC guidelines.
Yep.
Right. And I'd have to check with Dr. Miller, because in one portion of that document, it reads essentially that if CDC, state of Kentucky, and local guidelines differ, it will be the stricter guideline. Obviously, WEDCO can impose stricter guidelines. I don't know that they are in that case. I think they might have gone down to the 3 feet as well. But based on the way, I'm comfortable with the fact that the language requires the strictest of those guidelines, meaning that if it is 3 feet at this point, an application submitting a mitigation plan with 3 feet would be able to be accepted. And if it changes to 2 feet or whatever the changes are, I think we can evaluate the applications fluidly based on those guidelines. But yes, it was drafted assuming 6 feet, and that reduction will be taken into consideration.
Well, David, also number 3 as well. I'm not sure how you would constructively do that either.
Yeah, I don't know. One thing that I've said over the years in the past, sometimes we're asked to pass things that we don't, we're not experts on, but sometimes we do so with the understanding, hey, if there's an issue like the sign ordinance, or just an ordinance in general, or a municipal order like this, we can make changes. And I guess that's kind of what Devin was saying. If we need to come back and address something, we can certainly do that at any time. I just don't know how realistic 6 feet is during a parade. And I think we all agree that's going to be compromised. So I don't know. I don't have the answer. And I guess this is where I kind of lean on our legal counsel for advice on issues like this.
Yeah, and we can certainly, if it's in conjunction with the current guidance, we can absolutely take a motion to approve this and amend the language to indicate not 6 feet, but the current CDC, state of Kentucky, and WEDCO guidance on spacing. We can absolutely take that kind of a motion. But I'm happy to keep evaluating this and changing it in conjunction with the guidance if that's what council would like to see, like Connie recommended. Like I said, we have to establish this infrastructure to be responsible. I mean, we are still in a pandemic, and these guidelines are out there. And while we can't promise that result, we've got to, as a local government, promise the process for applicants.
And Devin and Mayor, if I could, number 5, please describe your procedure for addressing attendees who fail or refuse to wear a mask and observe social distancing. So there could be a myriad of different people having different ways of addressing people who aren't wearing masks or social distancing, which could be fairly much in conflict with one another and cause confusion. So that's a bit open-ended. I'm not sure it could be, I don't know how that one will work either.
Are you saying in one individual event that could happen, Willow?
Well, it could, I think. I think that different people could address this in different ways. And with one event, you've got this procedure, and another event, you've got that procedure. And I don't know. I think it could become confusing as we move forward. I think we need something. I think from a legal standpoint, we need something, but I think these are so open-ended and so difficult to administer or to control. I'm kind of with the rest of the group. I don't know how it all lands.
Is the point to say we as a city are allowing these events again, but we want to ensure to the public, regardless of where you stand on whether you wear masks or you feel about COVID, that we are going to encourage people to be safe? And if that, so that we can get life back to normal, we're going to start these events, but we want you to be safe. And so we are going to ask the vendors who put the events on to have things in place that will keep you safe. And if that is the point of it, then maybe we have too many rules and it should be a little more, you provide masks, you have a hand washing station, and you have, just the basic things that you see in other situations right now. I mean, have we gone too far with the language is my question.
Tammy, if I can say, I think you're right, because there's no way this is going to be enforceable. It all sounds good because we want to keep everybody safe, but there's no way any of this is enforceable from any perspective that you have. And I want to have the 4th of July parade, even if we didn't have any of these restrictions, would be great with me. So I wouldn't vote for this as it is, because it's smoke and mirrors. It's a plan that we want to do, but there's no way a parade, no way you're going to keep people 6 feet apart. The audience that comes to watch it, they're not going to be masked up. You may have people with health problems walking down the street. They can't walk down the street in the parade with masks on. So there's so many elements in there that will not be controllable. And so maybe you do what you say, something more simple, that we put out something that says we encourage the vendor to do this, do this, do this, keeping in mind that COVID is here, blah, 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 and do that, instead of saying you have to march this way and you have to do this way and you have to do that way, and do something that's quite more simple that says the city of Georgetown is making an effort here, realizing we can't control that much. You're taking your risk, whether you're the audience that comes to see it, masked or unmasked, or you're the people participating in it, masked or unmasked. You're taking a risk, and it's on you to take that risk if you want to be a part of it. But there's nothing to this. It sounds good, but it needs to be much more simplified, just to say we as a city encourage these things to happen, and we expect you to try your best to make them happen, and that's it. And that's my
Devin,
thoughts.
would doing something like that satisfy and cover us legally? I mean, the last thing we want to do is open up for a parade and then have it be like some kind of super spreader event or something. I mean, that's the last thing any of us wants to happen.
I mean, when city council approves an application, you are literally endorsing the event. So I do think that we could loosen up the addendum as written, but I wouldn't recommend going to the level of recommending and saying we hope you'll take precautions and we hope you'll wear masks. I recognize that the enforceability issue is real, but this is about providing the avenue for an event to occur and providing it safely. All the council's tasked with is approving the event. If you're approving an event without any safeguards and assumptions, whether they're enforced or not, I think that's an exposure. Do I think that we could change the addendum as written? Sure, we absolutely could. And I'm open to feedback.
Devin, I was just going to say, along the lines with kind of what Tammy's saying, sometimes I see contracts or agreements that have the word shall or should or whatever the case may be. And could we go along the lines of should instead of shall? Does that make any sense?
I don't know that one's that much of a distinction. I always look at the shall versus may, excuse me. Shall, should versus may.
Yeah.
Or not may, must, just may. But yeah, absolutely. We can tinker with this language. I'm open to all the suggestions you all have made, and but I wouldn't recommend going to the low end of we recommend or we hope you'll do this. I think that's insufficient.
I support the concept, and I've got faith in what we're trying to do. I feel like it's a stretch, but I also hear a consensus from it seems like most people that have spoken have some level of concern. And with that being the case, can we wait a couple weeks and bring this back with, I guess, maybe a different thought?
I think we're not. I think that we're not going to be able to wordsmith this in an open meeting to everyone's satisfaction. So we're almost going to have to do that. Yes, I think we're going to need to bring something back to you. I think that. What does
Mayor?
council? Yeah.
I just wanted to say that, and I think of it in this respect, Devin, and this may be helpful, is that, when you go into a restaurant, it has a sign that says mask required. So, I'm walking to the restaurant, I put my mask on when I get to the door and I wear it till I'm seated. But, all of the waitresses and everyone that's on staff, they wear their mask. But when we sit down at the table, we take ours off. And I don't know if you can use any of that, to move forward with this event, because it is a little bit different because of the crowd. There's going to be some people that will wear a mask and there's going to be some people who won't. And like you said, Mayor, if we're not going to police it, I know that you're just giving us procedures to go by to have, but maybe that would help with what you're trying to do. I don't know. I'm just trying to find a compromise to make it.
Mayor, if I could, before you, I apologize for interrupting you. One of the things that I think Tom is working on, if I'm correct, is the mitigation plan. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And because I was about to have to go through one for an event that I was a part of. Everything that we're talking about has to be laid out in that plan. You have to have a safety officer. You have to have all this. And one thing that we could do in to somewhat simplify this is to say they must submit a safety plan, and we can put in guidelines to having that safety plan just as along the lines of what Parks and Rec has, that they have done with their outdoor events, and go from there. I think we're trying to overcomplicate or undercomplicate things when it's on each individual event to submit a safety plan. And we could very easily, and a great place to start is with Parks and Rec, and Kim has it, because I know that the Kiwanis Club is going through one right now for the fair. So that may be, instead of us trying to jump through all these hoops, simplify it, but go at it from that aspect. Look at what Parks and Rec is already doing and use that to our benefit, not try to reinvent the wheel.
Tom, in terms of your all's planning for the 4th of July parade, you need some approval. You need some indication from the council by a certain date so you can proceed, I assume.
Well, we're in the process of, and we have our website set up to where we can utilize that. And I want to have things posted in that and even downloaded for individuals, maybe to submit in writing that they will comply with whatever requirements we're asking. And I know that's being done in some other situations with scouting, for example, and summer camping. But we're now asking people if they are interested in participating right now, and then we can turn around and ask them to comply with whatever requirements we suggest, come up with in terms of our mitigation plan. And I think we can satisfy most of the mitigation plan, the 6 questions. I've lined up the parade for probably the last 15 years. And one of the responsibilities we have is ensuring people are lined up correctly. Along with that, we can ensure there is spacing, proper spacing between event participants down the road, down College Drive, on both sides of the street, matter of fact. And we can ensure that the parade itself, that it begins in the correct manner, that we have lined them up and maintain that spacing. And we have people up and down the road trying to ensure everything is being done correctly, which means we can monitor and make sure that they are properly masking up and having masks available to offer to the participants as well. And y'all talk about vendors. So usually we would approve any vendors that might be downtown. Now, typically in the past, we only had maybe 2 at the most, maybe 3. I remember I think it was the VFW one time started cooking hot dogs on the side street one day or one parade. But we can eliminate or say, hey, we're not accepting vendors this year, to try to minimize that complication. Because I know you all are dealing with a lot, the city and community. It's a very difficult situation with this COVID. But we can minimize or say, tell vendors we're not accepting vendors applications this year, because that's, in the past we've kind of done that with little participation. So I think we can conduct and create a plan. We're in the process of doing it right now that satisfies this mitigation plan, and we'll have it submitted to the city clerk hopefully within a week, so you can review that as a council.
Good. Just the enforceability question is one that we have. As long as you stay in local government, you're going to deal with questions of enforceability of certain ordinances. And from a local government's perspective, the management of policy relating to COVID has been very difficult to do. Because there's so many different behaviors out there. There are ideological beliefs, there are scientific beliefs. Sometimes they match, sometimes they don't. There's a lot of different opinions. I promised this council from the beginning that I would not ask our police officers to enforce mask ordinances. Still not going to do that. It's not practical. It's not what we hired them for. But that doesn't mean that as a city official, I'm comfortable with giving carte blanche authority for people to have events that may not be safe, for the sole reason that they may not follow the rules that I suggest. That doesn't mean the rules still aren't valuable and have validity, even if I can't force everyone there to follow that rule. There's a place in between those two. And I'm asking this council not to create a circumstance where we just officially endorse events with zero guidelines.
Mayor, you make an excellent point. I don't disagree with what you just said. This is a little bit like an ordinance to me. This almost seems like something that we ought to have a couple conversations about. I know it's not, structurally that way, but anyway, I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to follow our legal counsel's advice on this. So that's where I'm going to leave it.
And what I'm going to do is just because this conversation's gone on long enough, I'm going to take everybody off the hook, and Devin and I are going to discuss this, and we're going to take all of your concerns into consideration, and even the enforceability issues, the why do it question, all the above, and we'll bring you a modified version of this.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm going to chime in, Mayor. I've listened with the utmost respect to every comment. And to me, if this comes across as being disrespectful, that's not my intent. I agree with what you just stated, Mayor. And my concern is, if we're not going to have any guidelines, should we really have this event to begin with? So that's the question I would ask. We've got a motion. If I'm not mistaken, I think we've got a motion and a second on the table. Do I have concerns? I do. I really do. But at the same time, I'm not embarrassed to say this. I'm not going to live my life in fear. I think if we do this, we have to have guidelines. Again, I know we have differing opinions here, but we've got a motion and a second. I'm ready to vote. If I made the second, I think Mrs. Mitchell made the motion. If you vote to table it, that's fine. But again, if we're not going to have guidelines, should we even have this event? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Just procedurally, Tammy, was that your motion originally?
It was, but I would say that you're bringing this back with different language. I support having guidelines as well. I just think they could be different. And you've said that you would go back and bring it back to us in 2 weeks. And I would support that.
Okay.
That's what I would rather do. And I don't know procedurally what I do to say that, except to say it.
Thank you. Devin, I think we decided in previous instances, this is when it is appropriate to table something and then it has to be brought back at the next meeting of the body. Is that right?
I think the distinction being the tabling versus motion to postpone indefinitely. But I mean, the other option is just to vote on it as drafted, and it sounds like it'll get voted down and then we'll just bring it back. It's fine either way.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we table it. That would give you all a chance to make corrections and bring back, and we can bring it back off the table to next meeting.
Thank you. And is that somebody's second? Okay. Thank you. Does everybody understand the motion? To table for 2 weeks. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? That puppy is tabled. Tom, are you up to coming back and seeing
Yes,
us
sir.
again?
I could do that. What I'd like to do, if it's permissible, is go ahead and address these mitigation plans. That way we'll be at further along, and I could err more on the side of being more cautious, so to speak, and go with that, as well as I have the CDC guidelines, and they also have the guidelines for events and gatherings, and it's a readiness and planning tool from the CDC, and it's for events. So they do have those guidelines, which is one of the things I was going to go by in creating or assisting to create our mitigation plan. So if it's okay with council, I'll go ahead and continue working on this mitigation plan, and I can submit it to city clerk, and per Ms. Golden's recommendation last week when I talked to her on the phone, and go from there. I did want to be sure and make everybody aware that this parade, our application does have it stated to be conducted on Saturday, July 3rd, because the 4th does fall on a Sunday. And just to make sure you're all aware of that.
Yeah, I think that's smart planning, but thanks for specifying that for everybody. And Tom, we appreciate your willingness to work through this mitigation plan. I think regardless of what direction the council ultimately gives you, you'll find that helpful to you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Tom. Next, under city attorney, so we'll also put off the specific approval for the 4th of July parade until we do that. But everybody knows that we're working adamantly toward that approval. Item C on your agenda under city attorney is a municipal order approving an amendment to an earlier municipal order. Thank you, Tom. And just, this is our MO that authorized condemnation on a utility right away and a purchase. What we are doing to make our position as specific as possible. This is new engineering data, laying out exactly meets and bounds on easements and the property. So it's taken our earlier request that you've approved and adding more detail to it, but we want your permission to do that.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Todd. Got it. And if there are no questions on that, MO, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Now we need to ask you to go into a brief executive session, closed session, and then we'll come back out. And as you know, we have more agenda to approve, so we don't think this executive session will be exceptionally long. And
I'll make a motion to enter executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101C to discuss matters of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the city.
Thank you.
Second.
You're all gonna have to give me just a minute.
All right, well, we're going to vote it, and then we're going to wait for you to tell us we're in executive session.
Sorry
Who-
about that.
Who is the
Yeah, that's
second?
I did, Tracy.
Thank you, Connie.
Connie.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Then we'll wait until that red dot up in the left corner doesn't say we're live and recording.
I'll be right back. Excuse me.
You go right ahead. Okay, council, it looks like we are invited to breakout room 1. So if that's come up on your screen, you can hit join.
Hello? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, Eddie, I can hear you.
Okay, we're just waiting on them to come back.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Hi, Chase. Hi, Eric.
Hello, Miss Tracy.
Hello, how is everybody?
We're good.
Hey, Chief, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, Chief. Eddie, I'm sorry to hear that you gotta go back out to bid on your project, but I know you made the right call. I know you'll get there. You'll get it done.
Yeah, we're just, we didn't have a choice. It wasn't my call. It was we have a grant for that, TAP grant. And you can't just throw out the low bid, even though there are problems with that low bid. You have to throw them all out and rebid the whole project. So we're gonna tighten up our pre-qualifications and just rebid it.
Well, it's a huge project. I think I know you'll get it done to where it satisfies everyone and done in the right way.
We need to dredge out that channel. Well, I'll talk to you about that later.
We can do it.
So it's surprisingly inexpensive to have it done. It'll look a lot better.
We can certainly do it.
Maybe go 50-50.
Yep, but right now is the time to discuss it since we're working on budget.
Cool. And I'll give you a call maybe tomorrow or something. I got some preliminary estimates before, and I'll show them to you. Just a starting point.
Chief, anything new with you?
No, not really. Just trying to keep her head above water.
His water meter is leaking a lot of water. He's called the water company, they're refusing to help. He's requesting fire in the system. 1919, I'll check in the vehicle.
What is all that racket?
Do what?
What was all that?
Dispatch was toning out a run for
Oh, okay, gotcha.
water leak, water company issue.
Okay, Andrew.
So Andrew, we're back in and we're still recording and live.
Give me a moment to confirm that. The lag catches up and I'll give you the signal.
Thank you.
You're back and recording and live.
Thank you very much. I see the former educator, Ms. Hambrick, chuckling at me for counting noses of all my Zoom screens. While in executive session, we discussed possible litigation, and of course, no action was taken in executive session. But now that we're in open session, we would accept a resolution concerning the opioid representation.
Can we get a
We have
motion
to
to
come back in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make a
You're
motion
right.
to come back into regular session.
Let's do that first. Thank you, everyone. Is there a second to resume regular session? There's a second. All in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you. Now that we're back in regular session, we took no action. But is there a motion to approve the resolution that you have concerning the opioid representation?
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Willow. Any questions about this? Or Devin, for anyone that might be watching, if you could just give a thumbnail sketch of what the council just approved.
Okay. So there is existing opioid litigation. Cities, counties, states all across the country have filed lawsuits against distributors, manufacturers, and retailers of opioids, essentially for the harm that those manufacturers, distributors, and retailers have brought to their communities. So the city of Georgetown has just approved representation with a firm that will file proofs of claim and bankruptcy actions for these manufacturers who are filing bankruptcy, not because they're not liquid, but because they see the writing on the wall. I think a great example of this is that I think Boy Scouts of America did this as well. They saw all the suits coming and they determined that they weren't going to be able to recover. So they file bankruptcy on the front end, and that's what these manufacturers are doing. So we've got to have representation to file our proofs of claim so that we can recover in those bankruptcies. And similarly, in future opioid litigation and existing class action litigation, we'll want representation to make sure that the city of Georgetown recovers for the damage that opioids have caused in our community. There's existing litigation that we're not joining where the city will recover and will contribute to the legal fees without signing on to that representation. But this is a separate pot that we've signed up for to make sure that we're asserting our interest at the table.
Thank you, Devin. That concludes city attorney items on your agenda. Item 10, Devin's going to help us with a phase 1 presentation about sidewalks. We've got a lot of broken and bad sidewalks in Georgetown, and we want to start addressing those. There's several different ways we can do it. As David has pointed out in the past, some councils have allocated some funds to help property owners with those repairs. I think we're working toward trying to find common vendors that can do things very efficiently on a larger bid price that we can help our citizens with. Devin's also been evaluating the possibility of a contract for grinding sidewalks that don't have big changes in elevation. Well, I see a bunch of ground sidewalks on the Georgetown College campus that look very safe and have been done well. So this is the first presentation. It will be followed by one with more detail and the pricing information. Devin, there you go.
Mayor, did we vote on the opioid resolution? I apologize if I.
Oh, goodness. Tracy, please tell me we did.
I almost said the same thing. I don't think we did.
Okay. Well, what would you all think about if we went back and we have a motion and a second to approve joining the litigation for the opioid lawsuit? All in favor of that, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? David, thank you. I'm sorry I overlooked that.
All good.
Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. Like Mayor mentioned, this is just kind of a stage 1 presentation just to kind of wet everybody's whistles about sidewalks. I know it's an issue for many of us, especially those who walk frequently and see the actual issues. And we're kind of just using this as a first step to introduce the topic. And like Mayor noted, Eddie's working on this as well very diligently to determine the best avenue financially for both the city and its citizens. Because as we know, and as I'll show you in slide 1 here, maintenance of sidewalk is the responsibility of the property owner. So our code requires that each owner maintain the sidewalk bordering their property And if it becomes a danger to the public, it's essentially a nuisance, and we'll go ahead and treat that through our code enforcement process. So property owner lets their sidewalk reach a state of disrepair and it causes a hazard to the public, we can issue a notice of violation, citation, and go through that entire process all the way to abatement. But as you all know, that would be quite a task for Georgetown Scott County Code Enforcement. So in collaboration with Eddie's office, they do issue notices of violation and citations for sidewalk noncompliance, but looking at efficiency, that's really not the way to go. So here's some options. I guess they call it sidewalk beveling. I don't know a lot about it, but qualifying sidewalks can be repaired through this patented method where concrete is essentially grinded down to a safe level, and it's cost effective, it's quick, it's ADA compliant, and it's good for the environment. It's got a lot of positives, but not every sidewalk would qualify for that. I think we've all seen the sidewalks that very clearly need to be completely ripped out. But for those that qualify, this is a great cost-effective way to remedy an issue. And Precision Concrete Cutting is a company that actually holds the patent for this service. They're the only one that does it. So we'd be able to kind of go that sole source route as opposed to full-on procurement. And then for those sidewalks that are in too severe of a condition, gonna have to rip them out and pour concrete. Beveling, like I mentioned before, involves zero concrete pouring. So this method's more expensive, but it's definitely necessary in some cases, and it certainly will take more time. So some property owners will have to go that route, but we hope to offer the option to as many as possible to go the grinding route. So what's the current status of sidewalks in Georgetown? So Eddie's office has developed a sidewalk inventory, and I'm going to ask Eddie to speak about that for just a moment, but it identifies non-compliant sidewalks and classifies the level of hazard and contains a photograph and a number of other items, but I'll let Eddie speak for a moment about that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, a little technical. So every year my office, we go through all the sidewalks in the city. We walk them, drive them, whatever's appropriate, and we rank them, and we notice deficiencies. We spray paint them with in paint and take a picture, and we do a report, and we report the ones that need some attention. And that's an annual activity. So we've got everything, the database is totally built out. We just have to go back now every year and recheck some of the bad ones and pay close attention to the bad ones and look for new ones. And I handed that over to Devin, and she ran into these really good people who have a patented technique to fix a lot of these what we call offset joints. That's where one joint is an inch higher than the next joint, and people can trip. So we report that, we keep the data, and they can go in and they can bevel those corners. They can make those offsets smooth, so you don't trip. And it's a really good way, an inexpensive way to fix certain sidewalks that need some attention. Others, as Devin said, you're going to have to just totally replace. Obviously, replacing is a lot more expensive. The repair is less expensive, and is a really good process to consider.
Thanks, Eddie. So
thank you.
As Eddie mentioned, we're kind of working together to understand our options. So we're coordinating with Precision Concrete Cutting, and some of the information we hope to bring to the council in the near future is, the cost associated with their services. So full transparency, they'll have to do a survey. It's actually really cool. They conduct a survey, all GIS related. So they literally have it pinpointed through GIS. And they have a fee per mile But if the city ultimately contracts with them for their services to remedy those issues, we recover that entire cost of the GIS survey. So that's a pretty cool offering they have. Obviously, they don't want to conduct a survey if they're not going to benefit in the future, but that's a great way to incentivize the survey. So we'll try to get information on average cost to a property owner for their services. They base their services off of I forget what they call it. It's not lineal foot, but they've got their own metric there. And then number of phases they would recommend. Obviously, Georgetown is large, and to do it all at once would be burdensome to property owners, the city from a budget standpoint, if cost sharing is selected, and it would be quite a task for the contractor. And then time and cost of the sidewalk survey, like I mentioned, just be interesting to know how long that survey would take, if they would want to do the full survey and then do the remedies and phases. Just all kinds of information that we're going to try to bring to the council so that council can make, a really informed decision about how to address this issue and how quickly to address it. Like Mayor noted, next steps would be bringing funding and cost sharing proposals for your review and consideration. So that we would hope, I know there was a 50-50 cost sharing model years ago. We can bring numbers, they'd be very, very much so estimates, but we can bring some numbers on what it would look like to share 50-50, to share 1/3, 2/3, just all the kinds of information that council will need to determine the number of phases and the funding allocated to this project. But I think with a combination of the beveling services and the full-on construction, I think we can get some contracts in place and provide economies of scale that allow citizens to repair these sidewalks and these trip hazards in a cost-effective way. And it would also obviously benefit the city on a number of levels. So that's kind of just the introductory phase. Glad to take any questions. And if you don't have questions tonight, but you have information you want as we move to the next stage, please just contact me or Eddie.
Devin, that was very good. I'm familiar with the process. Just curious about the company. I know it's a franchise. Are we dealing with somebody from Kentucky? Which I don't care where they're
Yes.
from, but okay.
Yeah, I believe he's out of Louisville. Actually, they've done a lot of work, as Mayor noted, on Georgetown College campus. So we've got some actually local references to check. I don't know if you know Bart Horn over there. He handles the facilities at the college. So we've definitely got some local examples. I know they're all over Lexington, but I think Louisville is probably their biggest client. But yes, they are Kentucky based. Our representative is Kentucky based.
And just for a little context for council, these uneven sidewalks and broken sidewalks clearly represent a safety hazard for our citizens, for folks that are out walking. We've had a number of injuries. They represent a liability issue for the city. If we do an annual inventory, we're aware of their condition and we don't take steps to do something about it, it's a liability issue for us as well. But then take those concerns and balance them with the fact that we have so many of our citizens that have sidewalk problems. If we move to do every bit of this at once, you'll have an entire city mad at you. And so we just got to be reasonable and practical about the way we roll it out, what its scale is. And as some other council members have pointed out, if we can afford it, do we subsidize some of the private property cost as an incentive for them? So it's more complicated than us just telling you what the contracts are. Everything you do is more complicated, but those are kind of the issues that you'll be wrestling with.
I appreciate the work that you're doing on this because I do get calls about it. I've talked to people who have been injured, who have fallen, and a comprehensive plan like this that we can put in place and keep in place, I think it'll keep us out of trouble. And if we can even if we can't subsidize it in some way, which I'm hoping that we can, the fact that we're able to have someone that would work for the city to do this, that we would contract with, would at least get a discount of some sort, which would make it easier on the citizens that have to make the repairs. So I appreciate the work. And the sooner the better. I realize it's a big task.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Mayor, I guess my thought would be that with some of the CARES money that we might receive, that some of that could be allocated towards a project like this. So I don't know what our timing is on this or the CARES money. But as I've mentioned to you, we've done some pretty successful sidewalk programs in the past that went really well. So anyway, I'm supportive of the whole effort.
Good. Thank you.
Mayor, if I can, I was on the campus when the company was actually over there doing the concrete work. They're great people to work with. They do not leave a big, huge mess. You know, some contractors will come in and tear stuff up. I mean, they're very well organized and great people to work with. So
good. We just want to get started. It's such a big task. We need to start breaking it into pieces and get started, or we'll never get finished. Andrew, do you have something?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to give Eddie and his staff credit for putting together an absolutely amazing sidewalk inventory. They walked or drove every square inch of sidewalk in this city, and everywhere where they identified an issue, whether it was compliant or not, everywhere where they identified a potential irregularity, they took a picture that is essentially geolocated to that sidewalk. So they can pull out that file and navigate to basically anywhere in the city and identify, particularly for our chosen vendor, where the problem areas are. There's a detailed record, and they put a lot of hours into it, and I just really want to give them credit for the great job that they did.
Good catch, Andrew.
It was fun. Thank you, Andrew. Go ahead.
For several years, we floundered around in City Hall because we became aware that we had this annual audit of sidewalk responsibility. We knew people personally who had fallen and severely injured themselves, and we were trying to figure out how to get the inventory done. We knew we needed to do it. We talked about hiring summer interns. We talked about ways to get that big task done, and Mr. Hightower did it for us. So it's nice having professionals.
It was fun. We had a good time doing it, and a lot of it was the software that y'all had purchased, the CityWorks software, that made it really good to work and get that input in there. So thank you for the opportunity.
Good. Let's see. Also under city engineer, Eddie, I think you've got an MO for a contract with Leak Eliminators to do work at 615 South Broadway.
Yes, sir. That's a local flooding area that we're going to correct with this project. And it's at 615 South Broadway. It's one of the older houses, one of those big houses on Broadway. And they've had some pretty significant flooding issues. So this project's designed to address those.
You need a motion for approval, Mayor?
Yes, sir. Thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second? Thank you, Todd. Todd beats too, Connie.
I pushed the wrong button.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? This is important. I hope, Eddie, you're right that we fix the problem, because most of this council is familiar with those addresses and flooding issues. So I think that's why David was so happy to make that motion. We've heard about that for a long time. Chief Colson, you've got to approve a municipal order approving your bid for ballistic armor.
Yes, sir. We have had 3 bidders. We selected Fire Armor LLC. Wasn't the lowest bidder as described in your packet, but they were the lowest bidder that met our specifications. Should have the memo, the bid summary, and budget transfer, which would take care of the purchase on our end. Has anybody got any questions?
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Mark.
I'll second.
And a second from Greg. Thank you. If there are any questions, and if not, all in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? Thanks, Chief. Anything else you've got for us tonight?
No, sir, that's it. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Okay, well, look, we're down to item 12 on the agenda and council comments. So I'm going to start just at a different place. And Connie, you're first tonight.
I don't have anything real specific, just a shout out to our Georgetown Police Department and what they've been through over the weekend and what a good job they've done and what a great team effort that they've done. And I just want to say that, you know, I want it to be as these big events are coming up. I've talked about it, but even the fair and the 4th of July, the Festival of the Horse, I like to see us get back to normal. So whatever can come back and we can make happen, I'm looking forward to doing that. And thank Eddie for the sidewalk information. I appreciate it. And that's all.
All right, thanks. Todd.
Thank you, sir. I've just got a couple things. One thing I'm gonna get with Devin on is I know we have worked really hard, this council and the previous council, on getting the GMWSS, the wastewater treatment plant 1 up and running and getting that project going. So I want to look at possibly, I know that, but kind of stops things, but I want to look at doing something else to kind of place a hold on any new construction for right now till we can give them chance to get up, and we can look at also looking at the subdivision regs and the development fees as well to also help bring some more money into the city. That's long overdue, that the city has paid for infrastructure for all the developments. And, you know, we're looking at one of the top growing cities in the state, and we're footing the bill for everything. So I think that's something that we definitely need to look at. Want to say what a great job with the police department. I've seen a couple videos on Facebook and various other places people have sent me. They did a tremendous job. So I want to give them a pat on the back, attaboy. But also want to, you know, give a pat on the back to the dispatchers, because they're the ones on the other end of the radio. They get to hear all this, but they're always the ones that are kind of forgotten about. So, which along the lines, this is National Telecommunicators Week. So I want to give them a shout out as well. And other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you, Todd. Mark?
2 items, Mayor. First item, West Main Street. I know we were talking about West Main earlier in the meeting. I don't know if there's anything either we can do as a city or if the state would have to get involved. But the trees from, I believe, Highland Avenue going out of town, out just a little beyond Kentucky Avenue. I know that the leaves are starting to bloom and going to be out. Street lights in that area get covered up pretty quick once the leaves come in. I don't know if there's anything we can do to try to cut those trees back any at all before the leaves come, you know, before the summer gets here and before the road gets repaved. So just want to ask about that.
Mr. Showalter, if you would send me the addresses where the lights are covered up and with leaves and stuff, I can call them into KU and see if we can get them to do something with that.
Yeah, it's on West Main Street from Highland Avenue going out of town a little beyond Kentucky Avenue. that are covering the street lights and also the
Okay.
power.
Okay, I'll call that in to KU.
Okay. Second item, Mayor, I had a constituent call me late last week and was asking about a little issue that they had out as you're coming out of Rural King. The entrance / exit there on 460 directly across the street from Carriage House. I don't know if the traffic committee can get involved and put their heads together and look at it, but I don't know if there's anything we can do there for cars that are exiting Rural King, taking a left on 460 headed back to town, including, possibly even making that a right turn on coming out of Rural King. So just want to see if we can look at that to see if that is a safe entrance / exit at the present time. And, if there's anything there that we either can do or should do to prevent, an issue moving forward, especially now that we've got a front that's going to be opening up fairly soon. That's going to add more traffic into that little strip mall there.
Mark, Todd and Eddie and I'll be glad to look at that. I know exactly where you're talking about. We'll do that. Bring something back to council.
But if I can have input from that, since I basically spend more hours there than I do at home, that is a whole lot safer there than it was before that street light was put up at the top of the hill. And I know it's been quiet because Rural King wasn't there when Kmart moved out, but it has its issues there. And I don't know if the person that was there, if they were there, but the peak time that is a little bit more dangerous is that 3 o'clock hour to that 5:30 hour when Toyota traffic still comes through there strong. So it's always been a dangerous zone through there. I mean, whole life it's been a dangerous place through there, but the traffic light up at the top of the hill does help a whole lot compared to what it used to be. And so far there hasn't been too many accidents there, but I've called my fair share of accidents into the police department from being out front. So you really got to watch it when you come in and out of Horseshoe Drive or when you come in and out of Rural King.
I think Texas Roadhouse is going to create some activity there as well.
Oh, definitely. I think everybody's excited about Texas Roadhouse. I know I am. That's going to be close.
Yeah, if it's a problem today, it's gonna be significantly more.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mark. Anything else? Okay, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing today is, I want to, express my gratitude and thanks to the Georgetown Police Department. They've had a heck of a weekend, and just let them know that, thinking about them all and express our support and Thanksgiving for what they do for us. I don't think they get enough pats on the back and accolades for what they do. So that's it today.
Good. Thank you, Greg. Karen?
One constituent came by Derby Estates. We've looked at this property before. It's 142 South Bode Forbes Road. It's the standing water. It's Jerry McAllister. He was in, I guess, to us 2 years ago. And then COVID kind of hit. And I think Eddie's worked with him some before and was going to take some different actions, but COVID kind of threw everything in a tizzy. So I think it's a piece of property we need to go back and look at. She's at the end of that pipeline that we put in that comes down. And before she didn't have standing water, now she does. So he came by to ask if we would take a look at that again. So I told him, pass it on.
We'll run out there and meet with them and see what needs to be done.
Okay, I've got you may have his information, but I've got his information. He sent it to me. I'll text it to you.
Yeah, I think he's at the bottom there, right before it goes under the pipe under the road.
I think you're right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Karen. Tammy.
Something I witnessed the other day, we were so proud of the right in, right out at Walmart, and it's great. But as I was going out there a couple of days ago, we have the barriers to keep people who are going to Walmart from going across the traffic and turning left into there. And I watched 4 cars in front of me get past the barrier and do a U-turn so they wouldn't have to go to the light and go into Walmart. Do you understand what I'm saying? They were going to the light, and instead, when the light turned and they were stuck in traffic, they did a U-turn across 2 lanes of traffic and went in the right in, right out entrance. And so
that's illegal, isn't it, to do that?
It is illegal. But, and you know, we have the little barriers up to a certain point so that people aren't tempted to do that. But I just was like, well, look at that. And then the next one went, and the next one, and the next one. So, you know, it's something that we might, I don't know what we can do about it. If we have any more of those little pin barriers, we may need to make them go all the way up to the light. But
Okay. We'll address that in traffic committee. Talk
okay.
about it. Okay.
And the other thing that I wanted to say too is that I'm a part of the police committee, and you know, talked with Chief Bossy over the weekend and about the situation. It's such a tough situation for the people that are involved, that were involved. And my thoughts and prayers go out to them. They did a fine job. It was a scary situation, and it's a situation that affects people for a long time, I'm sure. But we can be very proud of the work that they do. And I just wanted to say that in this meeting, we look to them to keep us safe. And that situation, any of us could have been in a McDonald's drive-through, you know, with our children or anything. And if you think about how all that played out, it's a really scary situation. And we should be very thankful that we have the people keeping us safe that we do. That's it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Tammy. David?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm like everyone else. I want to thank the police department for what they do. I'm so glad that we were able to get the 911 fee in place and do some other things to show our appreciation to those guys. I saw just a piece of the clip, the video from McDonald's that day, and I know it's just a piece of it, but it was obviously a very intense situation. And you know, I don't know everything that happened, but I do appreciate what they do and what all of our emergency responders do. So anyway, thanks for that. Mary, you and I had a little bit of a conversation about the Paris Pike and the 460 Blacktop. Were you able to speak with them about the transitions into driveways or whatever the case may be? So wouldn't end up like Indian Hills or.
We had a pre-construction kind of conference with all the right players.
Great.
I did bring that up. Reminded Mark about a specific driveway that I'd been to see and that he had ended up going to look at, and he remembered that.
Okay.
So the awareness we've placed the awareness. So
okay. That's all we can do. Appreciate you doing that for sure. Yes, and then Todd, I was trying to listen to your comments, and I wasn't exactly sure what you said in regards to development in terms of construction. But I think it related to the city providing services like utilities and so forth, which I know we do, at least from the water and the sewer perspective. But it might be good for you to talk to Joe Kane or one of the staff members there at Planning and Zoning, because I know from the development side, the developers, you know, it is their responsibility to either upgrade the roads or bring the roads into development, to build the roads, same thing with the electric service, the gas service, the water lines and the sewer lines. All those things are paid for by the developer. And quite honestly, some developers have issues with that. They think they're doing too much. And I'm not saying either way. I know it's an expensive process. And just to give an example, in today's market, to develop 1 acre of land typically costs at least $100,000, and it all depends on rock and all kinds of other variables. So A 10-acre tract is going to cost easily over $1 million by the time they're done doing what they need to do to get it ready for homes or businesses or whatever the case may be. But anyway, I'm not trying to tell you anything other than that might be a good place to go and get some, very good information anyway.
Thank you, David. Also, Todd, we're having some internal meetings that I've included the county judge on to start working with Joe Kane and Matt Summers about how we move forward a discussion about subdivision regulations and zoning law. And so I know you've brought that up in the past. We are now having the internal conversations to develop a good enough understanding to bring council something. So we've restarted that process recently in the new year from what you talked about last year. So a lot more information to come, but and your comments and David's comments reminded me to mention that.
Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, good. We'll have more to report. Willow.
Yeah, my heartfelt thanks to the police department as well. We are blessed to have the professionalism in this police department, and I think that what happened over the past weekend has assured us that we have a finely trained and caring department, and I'm thankful. I also have a forward-looking possibility for our city. In this last legislative session, a few constituents have reminded me that state government in a bipartisan, overwhelming way passed a bill to establish a Kentucky Recovery Ready community certification. In other words, the governor is going to establish an advisory committee so that cities can get certified that they are an addiction recovery ready community. And there will be, this advisory committee will have certain protocols and certain processes that a city would have to go through to prove for this certification that they have enough recovery areas and places and procedures in place to gain this certification. And if in fact, Devin, we do get some of this litigation money that has to go towards healing, I think that this would be a good symbiotic relationship to see if we could attain that certification.
Good. That would be a good certification to have. I think that would be helpful. And Willow, now that you mentioned that one, some of the council members recall that we started the process to become a designated work-ready community. Jack Connor made a presentation to an earlier council. We achieved that work-ready in progress status when we first applied, but Jack is working on the final steps of that work-ready community status for Georgetown. So we're hopefully finalizing that one as well, Willow. Council has also taken all of the steps necessary to become designated a Kentucky League of Cities City of Ethics. The only remaining step, I believe, is for the city council to take a specific ethics course that I think KLC has designed. Andrew, Devin, and I have been talking about this, and we're prepared to schedule it for the council, but that would be a necessary step of that certification as well.
Thank you.
So, yes, ma'am. Well, thank you all very much. Seemed like there's been a lot of information and a lot of discussion this evening. It looks to me like we've completed our agenda. Is there anything else to come before the council? If not, we will stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Take care.